Center, Daytona International Speedway, with the first of 3 availabilities this weekend with our manufacturers and team owners to preview the Daytona 500 and the 2019 season. Sitting from left to right here, we're joined by Jim Campbell, the U.S. Vice President of Performance Vehicles and Motorsports for Chevrolet, Mr. Richard Childress Racing, Rick Hendrick, Hendrick Motorsports, Chip Ganassi with Chip Ganassi Racing, and Richard Petty Motorsports. Jim, let's start with you. Talk to us about what Chevrolet has happening in 2019.
Well, it's going to be an exciting year, both on the track and in our showrooms. In our showrooms, we're introducing a host of new products, including our new 2019 Silverado. You'll see them all over our displays here at Daytona. New Blazer is back, doing really well. It's a big year for our company in the showroom, and then on the track, we got our racing started here a few weeks ago at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, where we raced the Corvettes in the GTLM category, and then our sister brand Cadillac ran and won overall. But for Chevrolet, really excited to start here with the NASCAR season. Last weekend, very exciting with the qualifying effort with Chase and Alex locking up the front row. And last weekend, the first 5 positions showing really good individual car speed. Really looking forward to the year. Great things happening with NASCAR. We're working very closely as part of the NASCAR OEM Council on kind of marketing fan experience as well as the competition side. So we're looking forward to the year, and it's a real honor to be racing with Richard and Rick, Chip, and Richard Petty. 3 Hall of Famers for NASCAR, and Chip obviously has won every big race in every category. So real honor to be here with them and with you all.
Thanks, Jim. Richard, you were in here yesterday talking a little bit about 50 years of Richard Childress Racing. Can you talk a little bit about how your relationship with Chevrolet over the years has been such an instrumental part of your success?
Well, I was racing Chevys way before '69, but I ran a '69 Camaro here in Daytona 50 years ago, and it's been a great ride. We wouldn't be where we are today. RCR wouldn't be there without General Motors and all the support from Chevy, engineering, all the help that they've got. I think we had the very first engineer, which was Alba, back in the 80s, I think it was. So they've been really great for RCR, and they've been great for the sport. You know, when you get a manufacturer like GM behind the sport, and we've won so many championships over the years, all of us have. It's just been a great honor.
Yes, sir. Rick, can you talk a little bit about how you and your team, your organization, work with Chevrolet to prepare for a racing season?
Yeah, again, I congratulate Richard on 50 years. That's quite an accomplishment, man. Since the beginning with Chevrolet, I mean, I started with Harry Hyde, and we had basically nothing. And the engineering and the support from Chevrolet has been remarkable over the years. They've been there. That's all I've ever raced. And to me, to get to see the products that come to the track early, like the Camaros and the new Silverado, and to race the cars that we're going to sell, it's been really cool for me. But my relationship with Chevrolet goes back to my first deal in 1976. And I remember the first 2 blocks they gave me. And I thought that was a big deal. I got 1 set of sheet metal and 2 blocks. But no, it's been a great ride. And I think the thing about the bow tie in my life has been, it's always stood for performance, whether it's the Corvettes or the Camaros, drag racing, oval track racing, road racing. And that's been the kind of that heritage. And I've just been lucky to be a part of it all of my life.
Thank you. Chip, heading into the 2019 season with 2 very talented drivers, Kyle Larson and Kurt Busch. Can you talk about your expectations for this season?
Thank you. Yeah, first I want to congratulate Richard Childress on 50 years of racing. I just got to 25 and I thought it was a hell of a lot. And I got a long way to go, I guess. And I got a long way to go to catch these 3 guys that are sitting up here with me in terms of their history in the sport, I can tell you. I got to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. It's one of the I got to pinch myself sometimes I'm sitting up here on the dais with these people, all because of General Motors, and their history in the sport. Yeah, I won some championships with them in IndyCar racing, but I got a little ways to go here yet, and so I'm honored to be just even to be accepted by these other three team owners up here as part of the group, and obviously with General Motors, with their tradition and history in motorsports, just to be a part of that is something that I was a kid I would only dream of. And so, having said that, I look forward to 2019 with Kyle and Kurt, and my expectation is to have two cars in Miami and still running for the championship.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Petty, you've been around the sport for quite a while. Can you talk a little bit about the landscape of NASCAR today and your thoughts heading into the 2019 season?
You know, it's really hard to tell. The Daytona race basically is a continuation of last year. We go to Atlanta, we got a whole new set of rules, whole new way of inspection and all this stuff. So it's going to be a pretty exciting deal to get started with. And like I say, I've been here a long time, seen a lot of changes, and you know, some of them are good, some of them are bad. The whole deal is trying to put it all together, not only for the everybody involved. Okay, this is when you get everybody involved. That means, you know, the fans, the news, the workers, the owners, all this kind of stuff. Get them all on the same page, and NASCAR is doing everything they can, I think, and the drivers and the owners are doing everything they can to kind of, you know, go to the next level with our racing. And, you know, again, starting the season next week in Atlanta, basically, is going to be an exciting deal. So I think everybody's looking forward to that. And, you know, we're looking forward to staying and doing our deal with the Chevrolet deals. They've been real good to us as far as, you know, working with Richard Childress and working with Chevrolet. It's been a big plus for Richard Petty Motorsports. And, you know, we got a new driver with our driver, so he's going to, you know, Bubba's got a lot to learn. He's been in all the tracks last year, so we're looking forward to a lot better things this year.
Thank you, gentlemen. We got time for a few questions from media. If you'll raise your hand, we'll get a mic to you. We'll start up front here with Holly and then work our way towards the middle there in the back.
Good morning. Holly Kane with the NASCAR Wire Service. And really, any of you could answer this, but it feels like that there's a little bit more of the manufacturers all sticking together in the races, maybe more so than I can remember in some recent seasons. Certainly, you know, the Chevys all getting together, the Toyotas or the Fords. Could you just kind of talk about that and what that strategy may be, especially for at Daytona?
Yeah, maybe I'll just I'll start. I mean, clearly at a race like this, you know, working together where you can makes a lot of sense. That's what we're doing. All things being equal, with the Chevy drivers, work with the Chevy drivers, particularly obviously in the draft. With that said, race car drivers is very situational, and so they got to read the track, they got to read the competitors. And I think that in the end, the drivers have got to really make those decisions on what they're going to do in the situation. I got all these folks have driven race cars and they manage, you know, successful teams, and we have to do both. We have to be working together when it makes sense, and then we also have to recognize it's situational for the drivers. One thing I think, you know, last weekend, last night, number of cars on the track, we never really got a lower line going. I think in the race we'll have a chance to do that, and so I think that's going to be an opportunity for our drivers to work together, but also being really, really sensitive to what's the situation and how do they get to the front.
We'll go back here to the middle to Dustin, and then we'll come over here to Mark.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. I'll just ask this for Rick and Chip. As the sport has looked to contain cost for teams and help teams out, are there particular areas that shouldn't be regulated that teams still should be able to allow to spend whatever they want? And if there was something like for lack of a better term, a cap of something like 10 to 12 million per team car, is that something that's reasonable for you guys?
first.
Big boy.
Thank you. Well, I think racers they're going to spend whatever they got to spend to get the job done. And I think NASCAR has done a good job of trying to hold costs down. And I mean, it's a lot of work going on with our CFOs, not just the Chevy teams, but all of the team owners and presidents are working together to look at what we're spending and how we can do it for less. And I think in the future you're going to see other things happen with the cars and engine packages that's going to reduce the cost. And so NASCAR is really on it. And when you look at it, we talk about a spending cap. I don't know how you regulate that with all we have going on. I mean, but I think everything's on the table, and I think they've done a great job of. We are in constant communication. There's nothing going on with NASCAR that teams don't know about. Nothing going on with the teams that NASCAR doesn't know about. So we're working hard on it. So I think we're making progress, don't you, Richard? I think it'll continue to get better.
We'll go to Mark, and then Nate, then Lewis.
Mark Garrow, PRN. This is for all the car owners there at the table. NASCAR's rule now that, if you're caught with something after the race, number one, it's going to be good that we know exactly who the winner is Sunday and not have something pop up on a Tuesday or Wednesday. But how do you deal with that? And do you agree with, this now very clear-cut line? If you're caught with something after the race, there's no such thing as an encumbered win or any foolishness like that.
I think it's good. I think what they're doing, if they'll stick to it, it's going to be better for all of us. Racers are competitive, and they're going to do everything they can to get the advantage. But if you know going in that you're going to get your hands slapped if you win the race, you're going to be a little more careful how you do it. We got hit on the first round. We lost we lost the car chief, and the 13 lost one. So we had a meeting after that, and I got everybody's attention, I hope.
Yeah, I think I look at it like we heard so much about. I'm going to make the connection here in a second, but we heard so much about them improving the facilities here at Daytona. Because the people up in those grandstands are they want the same amenities that they have at an NFL game or in Major League Baseball. And so I think kind of concurrent with that, they don't want all this murkiness in trying to understand what happens when a race is over. If a guy made it, he didn't. Blah, blah, blah. They want to have they want to have more rules that are of today and that are comparable to other sports. And those are our competitors are the NFL and Major League Baseball and the major sports. If we're a major sport, we have to govern like one, and we need to react like one to certain issues.
Let's go to Nate, over to Lewis, and then to Martin.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Whoever wants to take this, great. Maybe King, because he hasn't said anything yet. How do you feel like the quality of the racing has been like so far during speed weeks? And has NASCAR given you guys any indication that they might make a change for Sunday?
I haven't seen a whole lot of difference this year than any of the rest of the years. I think they're a little bit closer on inspection. Like I said, they done caught 3 or 4 of us doing things. And but other than that, again, this year, the rules down here are pretty much what they were last year. They're just tightening up on the rules. Other than that, I don't see a lot of changes.
Do you think the racing's been good so far?
No, I don't. No,
I think the biggest thing is, we haven't seen full fields out there. You get 40 cars out there, you're going to see a different race.
Instead of seeing one lane, you're going to see 2 lanes. So it's going to be a lot different when the race starts.
Trying to save your primary car. And remember, this is the last race for this car. So we go to Talladega, it's going to be different.
We'll go over here to the left to Louis Frank.
Yes, for Rick, over here on your right, your left, excuse me, Louis Franco Reuters. Just like the Federal Open Market Committee is data-driven, NASCAR is becoming data-driven. As someone who's involved in a lot of business, how do you balance gathering data with having personnel and travel? How do you balance the two?
Well, you know, it's you're forced to use the data, and some of the teams had the data before others did, and some of the organizations had them before others did. But it's good information, especially for a young driver, to be able to see throttle traces, braking, wheel angles, all the things that you can capture. But you know, it still comes down to the talent in the seat and someone calling the race and getting on and off pit road, no mistakes. But we're in a data-driven society. I mean, the way we go to market, the internet has changed the world, the way people shop, and I think it's only natural that it kind of works its way into our sport.
We'll go back over here to the right to Martin, and then to Greg.
Richard, 40 years ago, you won this race, I guess, on the last lap. I mean, snowbound country, flag-to-flag coverage on TV, and yet everyone remembers the fight between Cale and Bobby and Donnie. How important do you think that was to NASCAR history, and what did you make of the deal?
It was one of the high points of NASCAR. Put NASCAR on the nationwide map. Okay, even though Winston had come in 71, I guess, and they started taking NASCAR all over the country, and we had tracks all over the country. But in 79, they had the great snowstorm. There wasn't but 3 TV stations at that particular time, and if you're going to watch TV, then the racing was probably what people were watching. And then, the people that heard about racing and stuff, they knew it was like a Southern sport deal. You come down to the last lap, and you see the rednecks come out in the racing part of it. So I think that was it probably could not have played. It was a perfect storm the way it wound up with the weather, the way the race ended, and then I think that was my 6th win. So you know what I mean. And so one of their heroes won. I hope there was heroes anyway. But so you had everything that you could put into a program. You had it that day. So I think being flag to flag, green flag and stuff, it couldn't have been a better footstep for NASCAR at that particular time.
We'll go to Greg Engel and then finish up with Al Pierce.
Hi guys. Greg Engel, Auto Week. I have one for Jim and then a quick follow-up from Mr. Hendrick. The automotive market obviously shifted to SUVs. We're going away from sedans. How hard is it to keep motorsports relevant in the marketplace to help sell these vehicles? Because ultimately that's what you want to do. As the challenge goes, as we're shifting to SUVs, how hard is it to keep motorsports relevant?
Well, for us as a company, literally over 100 years old, motorsports has been part of what we've done. Louis Chevrolet, the co-founder of Chevrolet, him and his brothers raced at Indy, and that began kind of this tradition of performance and racing. And all the changes in the auto industry, racing has been a constant for our company in one form or another. So I expect that we will find a way to continue to make it relevant. I mean, for sure, propulsion technologies, the lessons you learn on aerodynamics, downforce, drag, all of the ways we prepare our cars are relevant for what we do for our showroom vehicles. And Camaro, we've got Camaro. We're still selling the Camaro in the showrooms, selling the Camaro Z01 in the showroom, racing on the track, the SS in the showroom, racing on the track, and Xfinity, and so on. So and we race. I mentioned we were here for the Rolex Corvette. We sell it in the showroom, and we're racing on the track. So I think it's really going to be what we've done over the past 100 years. We got to continue to adapt and continue to link what we're doing in the showroom with what we're doing on the track, both from a vehicle, but also from a technology and propulsion technologies and the way we prepare both sides of our business, racing and the production side. So we love racing. We've got great alignment in our company around it, and we've got great partners, as demonstrated here today, as well as drivers.
Thank you. Mr. Hendrick, from the dealership side of it, obviously you deal with more than just Chevrolet, so you can kind of get the bigger picture. Are people, do you see the sedans going away and more people buying SUVs? Is that because people want that, or is it because the market says that's what's going on, if you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, for us, we sell a lot of Corvettes and a lot of Camaros, but you see the crossovers are a big, you see the numbers. That's a big part of our business. And that's true across the board. That's Highlines, everybody. And so there's still performance sedan business with some of the makes, and they're still building 600, 700, 800 horsepower cars. And a lot of those cars are halo cars. Like for us, the Corvette, the 750 is a halo car, and it brings people in the showroom that buy trucks and buy crossovers too. So we need that. And there's so much of a buzz about the new Chevrolet mid-engine Corvette. We've got probably could take hundreds of orders, but we don't know how many we'll get. And so, the bottom line is, I think a lot of the soccer moms are going to SUVs, and then their husbands are driving them too. But we still have that performance end of it. When you see all these pickup trucks that come to the race or SUVs, they're either Chevrolet fans, Ford fans, Toyota fans, and the manufacturers see that.
Just one quick follow-up. Last year, our company sold, first company to sell, kind of over 1 million crossovers, either small crossovers or mid crossovers or SUVs. And so we're definitely investing in that, but we still have, core, I'll call them passenger car, sports car models that are in our lineup. But it's exciting. We've got to do both. You got to transition. And the buyers are really, looking for, a little bit more functionality but great fuel economy as well. So we're able to do that both on the car side in a targeted way, but also on the crossover, small and mid crossovers and SUVs. Yep.
Well, final question from Al Pierce.
Yeah, Al Pierce from AutoWeek. Richard, for you, you have admitted openly, as you should have, that you lucked into the '79 win. All right. Have you ever sat down and thought, okay, that makes up for enlisted 5 or 6 that you'd lost like that, and it kind of evens out a little bit?
Yeah, it all evens out. We're fortunate enough to win 7 of these, and probably 4 of them we probably should have won. Circumstances probably cost me 3 or 4 races, but then circumstances gave me 3 or 4 races. So in the long haul, it kind of evened itself out. So you lose one, you come back next week and say, okay, I'm not going to make that one up, but we're going to win this one. And so far, it's worked out pretty good for us.
Before we finish up, Jim?
Yeah, I just, first of all, thanks for having us here and talking Chevy and NASCAR racing. I want to introduce a few of the folks that run our programs. Mark Kent's over here. He's our director of racing for Chevrolet, works with Cadillac and our Holden team in Australia and all things racing. Pat Suey is here. Raise your hand there, Pat, if you would. He leads all of our NASCAR programs, Cup, Xfinity, Truck. And where's Adam? Adam in the back is our Cup manager, NASCAR program manager for the Cup Series. So as the season progresses, you'll see these guys around the garage. You're welcome to grab them, ask them questions, and we'll make sure we get them into the media center as we progress through the season. And Adam's newer to our team. This is his 2nd season, and so it's great to have him on here. He comes with a aero background, which is great. Also, just to close up here for a second, you think about the team owners here. Chip won the Daytona 500 with Jamie in 2010. Richard Petty, 7 Daytona 500 wins, including that '79 Monte Carlo, which is right out here outside the media center. We were just looking at it. It's amazing, and he won the championship that year as well. Rick Hendrick, they've won this race 8 times. And by the way, the 99 Chevy that Jeff Gordon won in is out there as well, which is great. And then Richard, you guys won it 3 times, and obviously last year with Austin. So it was great to have a Chevy Camaro ZL1 in winner's circle. Congratulations on that. You guys are defending champions, and we're looking forward. As obviously recognizing a great history, but what I love about these team owners, they recognize the history, but they are immediately focused on the future. What are we going to do next to win? And that's what I love about racing with these guys. It's great to be with you, and we'll see you on the track.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Good luck in the Daytona 500. If I can have your attention, we're going to go ahead and continue here in the Media Center with the second of our 3 availabilities this weekend, where our manufacturers and team owners will preview the Daytona 500 and the 2019 season. Sitting from left to right here, we're joined by Mark Rushbrook, the Global Director of Ford Performance Motorsports, Roger Penske from Team Penske, Jack Roush with Roush Fenway Racing, Tony Stewart, Stewart Haas Racing, Bob Jenkins with Front Row Motorsports, and Mr. Lynn Wood with Wood Brothers Racing. Mark, Ford Performance is heading into the 2019 season with a ton of momentum from last season's championship and a pretty decent showing in last night's races as well. And the introduction of the Mustang obviously has created a lot of excitement. Talk to us a little bit about the process of bringing the Mustang to the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series and expectations for this season.
Yeah, just some quick comments on part of yours. The 2018 season for us was beyond expectations in terms of what our teams were able to do on track, and I'm honored to be sitting up here with all of our teams represented, and great teamwork and great performance from them. And as a company, we couldn't do what we do without having such great partners in the racing teams. And for the Fusion in its last year to take what was called the old body and get it competitive, that was the teams doing it. The process for the new Mustang, it was a decision that we took about 18 months ago as a company with our future in cars and everything that we're doing, and the Mustang now being a global car, that we wanted to put Mustang in as many global racing series as we could. And given the opportunity with the NASCAR rules to now allow coupes, we started work on the Mustang, and a lot of great work from inside the company with our aerodynamic tools and with our design studio, but also strong input from all of our racing teams, because they race the cars every weekend and know exactly what they need. So with input and weekly meetings and a lot of CFD and scale tunnel and full scale tunnel, we were able to get the car submitted and approved in the middle of the year last year, and now we've been working hard ever since then to make sure that as we start the 2019 season, we have the strongest Mustang as possible. And it was pretty encouraging last night to see the performance again across all of our teams, some strong cars out there and a strong finish in the duels. So we're pretty excited about what we have so far for a race car. Definitely looking to the forward to the Daytona 500 on Sunday and seeing how it performs in that race. But just excited to have Mustang in the track. Also working with Roger and his team in Australia. We've got a new Mustang coming over there as well in, I think, 2 weeks in Adelaide. Just excited to see the Mustang and competitive on track in so many different parts of the world.
Thank you, Mark. Now, this question is for all the owners. It's not really a question, but just wanted to ask you all each to comment a little bit, talk a little bit about your team's preparation for the 2019 season with the introduction of the new Mustang and with the new rules package. Just a little bit about the collaboration with Ford Performance and what you all did to get ready for this season. We'll start with you, Mr. Penske.
All right. Well, obviously, I think the advent of Stuart Haas coming on in 18, and we really began a collaboration back then from the standpoint of how to make the cars better, and with the thought of the new Mustang, all of us had the opportunity with our technical people to sit down and interface with Ford's performance team, and I think it was whether it was wind tunnel or scale tunnel or all the things that go together, I think were key, and each of us had a piece of that. But from our preparation, it was you have all these cars that are Fusions, and we don't have just 4 or 5 cars in the stable. You've got multiple cars that have to be changed over, so it puts a big pressure on. But the good news was Ford provided us the pieces that are specific by NASCAR. We had those in time in order to build these cars, which I thought was good. And something we don't talk much about is that the engine program
that we have from Jack and Yates, probably is, the cornerstone of our success last year, and certainly when you saw last night, it's a big piece of that. So they should get a big thank you for that. So it's just a total collaboration. We're racing each other when it comes to Sunday, but I think what we've learned that we can work better together during these races, and you could see it last night, and you could see it, during the season last year. Look, obviously we all want to win, but I think that's key to get us to that point where you've got 5 or 10 laps to go, and you got a chance to win. Is kind of what we're all trying to do.
I'd like to comment on the Mustang first of all. The Mustang is a river that runs through for me. 53 years ago, I loaded my first Mustang on a truck and took it to the Winter Nationals. And I've watched the Mustangs be raced in a myriad of classes in road racing and as well as drag racing. We've taken them to Bonneville, we've taken them to Pikes Peak, we've taken them to Europe. The Mustang is, to find it taking its rightful place at the top of the stock car arena with NASCAR is been something that I've watched come over a period of time that I'm very proud of being a stable with for all those years. The toolbox that Mark Rushbrook and all the engineering staff in Dearborn and the engineering staff in Charlotte have is never had more tools in it. And the fact that we've been able to at least for the first couple of races here indicate that we're competitive with the Mustang right out of the box indicates that the work that's been done with CFD and simulation and simulator and all the tools in the toolbox has been effectively applied, and I think it bodes well for the result that we're going to have as we look at the prospect of going to the different racetracks with the different air packages and the different engine packages this year. There's a lot of balls in the air, but I'm confident in Mark and all of his contemporaries and all of my friends and partners to be able to meet those challenges.
Yeah, what they said. What else am I going to say that you two didn't say already? And they're both right. The thing that's been impressive from our standpoint at Stewart-Haas is that we came from a totally different culture with a different manufacturer, and when we came over to the Ford stable, how hands-on Mark and his staff are, it's just an extension, of the race teams that are sitting up here. It's not just a manufacturer that you go to and you say you need this or you need that, and it might be weeks before you hear something. I mean, these guys are very proactive. Mark's on the phone with all these race teams, constantly checking in on what can we do to be better and faster, and what can we do to help. And that's something that having that kind of support from a manufacturer is very crucial to what we do, obviously. And like Roger and Jack have mentioned, and I know these two behind me are going to mention too, we couldn't do it without these guys. So having that kind of support is huge for what we're trying to do here. As competitive as this series is, and it keeps getting more competitive every year, to have that kind of backing and the resources that Mark Rushbrook and his staff give us. Like they mentioned, there's a lot of tools in this toolbox, and it's a lot of fun for our guys at the shop, whether it's in the aero department or drivetrain. Every department that we have, being able to work with the Ford side has just been a lot of fun for these guys, and they really feel that push from Ford, and it's the motivation. Not that our guys need a lot of motivation anyway, but that motivation and push that we get from the Ford side is a lot of fun, and it keeps us all going. But as far as preparation for this year, I think Stewart-Haas Racing's probably been one of the teams that are used to hitting curveballs left and right, and to sit here and switch body styles over the winter, as much as that's a huge undertaking for everyone. I think it's just another walk in the park for our guys. They're so used to it, from adding teams consecutive years to changing manufacturers to changing a body style. I think it's just a layup for our guys. So, I've had all the confidence in the world in our group, and we've got cars that are fast down here, like Jack mentioned, and I think we all learned last year that, especially at the restrictor plate tracks, we get these Ford teams together. It's really hard to handle all of this if we're working together. So, like you mentioned, we all want to win the race at the end of the day, but if we're just racing each other at the end of the day, it's a lot better scenario than we're trying to race the entire field. So, pretty excited about what we've got to look forward to this year.
Yeah, and I just want to echo Jack's comments. I mean, my youngest memories as a child was riding around in my grandfather's 1966 Mustang, thinking that I'm riding in the coolest car in town. And so I'm just so proud that the Ford brand's got a performance car, that's a flagship now in NASCAR. And you think about the history of the Mustang, what better car to have representing this sport? And so what's so neat about it, rollouts are rollouts. And every time a new body style comes into the sport, it seems like historically there's been issues, and it usually takes the manufacturer, 6 months to a year to figure it out. And I've just been so impressed with the Ford team, with the preparation they put into this car. And, from the initial results of the test and here at Daytona, I think they're pretty well going to hit the ground running. And so for a team like ours, Ford is just, they partner with us, and they want to be a part of our improvement. And so the Mustang, what it brings to a team like Front Row Motorsports is a new platform, a chance to build all new race cars. And so for us, it's a new beginning. We have a great relationship with the folks at Roush Fenway, and we're building a new fleet of cars, so are they, and we're working together with their engineers. And so my hope is that this year will be a breakthrough year for us.
Well, we've raced Fords forever, and so we trust their judgment, and they picked a really good one with the Mustang. Our dad had a 65 red one, and our Uncle Leonard had a dark blue one. So we were raised on Mustangs. But we have an alliance with Team Penske, and they do a nice job of giving us the best cars every week. And with Mark Rushbrook taking over the Ford program last year, I think he's done a very nice job and rolling out the Mustang, just like the GT that you rolled out several years ago. It's top notch. And obviously last night with top three both races, we're off to a good start.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll open it up to questions. We have time for a few, and we'll start right up front here with Lee Spencer and work our way back.
Lee Spencer, RacingBoys.com. Roger, with us going to new cars, according to NASCAR, in a couple of years, and cars that will reflect what you're selling in the showroom, how do we engage the longtime fan as far as reinvigorating the car culture that was once so passionate about as NASCAR fans?
Well, I think it's got to be relevancy to what we're selling in the showrooms. There's no question. And I think that's, part of the agenda that NASCAR has is to try to connect better with the fans, with these cars. And I think at the same time, as we look at the technology that's out there, things that we're looking at on the highway, we got to connect, in the race cars. So I think I don't have a lot of information today on the Gen 7. I know there's lots of discussions going on, and the good news is that NASCAR is certainly connecting with the teams, not just the Ford teams, but everyone. And it's really up to the manufacturer, I think, Toyota, Ford, and Chevrolet, to be sure that it's relevant to what they're selling, because, they all support us in a certain way. And I think they need to be sure that we connect with the customer, and that customer ultimately, is a fan.
We'll go over here to the right to Caleb and then back to Reed.
Caleb Whistler, KickingTheTires.net. Over recent months, we've heard a lot of NASCAR executives talking about we're here to execute Jim Francis' vision. What has been communicated to you guys about the vision, and how confident are you in the future?
Who's it to?
You. Any of you.
You didn't hear your name.
I didn't hear my name. The most important thing for everybody in the room is making the racing as exciting as it could possibly be for the race fans. And the race teams do some things that are counter to that. We make their engines blow up less frequently. We make our cars better with the CFD and with the finite element analysis of all the parts. You don't break parts, you don't blow up engines. Goodyear does an ever improving job with the tires. So the opportunity you have to have the fans excited about the fact that an underdog, something that didn't see coming, is going to happen. You don't have that as much to play to as you have in the past. But the things that NASCAR has done with regard to the segments and the other things that they've done, the championship run at the end and the way they organize that is in the direction of making it more interesting for the fans. We've got to keep them engaged. We got to think about their attention spans and do the things. The races may need to get shorter. That could be a cost savings all the way around. They probably need to get shorter. Some people say we need to race fewer times. I'm not sure that's true. You know, I used to tell Mike Helton if he had 3 or 4 races a week, I'd be there for him. But I don't know if I'd say that today. But anyway, keeping it exciting for the fans, the individual decisions we make that will keep them engaged and keep news or surprise coming within their attention span is very important.
We're going to go right here to Reed, then to Nate, then to Steve on the far side.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. This is for anybody who would like to take it. Conventional wisdom's always been that Daytona is a completely different animal from the races that follow. But with the new package with higher downforce, lower horsepower, does what happens this week inform what happens later on to a greater extent, or is it still a one-off?
I still think it's a one-off. I mean, I think restrictor plate racing always is, but you know, the new package is definitely going to add an element this year that you know, kind of like Roger said, it's kind of a bunch of balls up in the air right now. Nobody really knows exactly what to expect, but you know, having a restrictor plate package, an open package, and now this new package, you know, I think we're all excited to see what it produces. And at the end of the day, it's all about making the racing more exciting for the fans and re-engaging the fans in the sport. So. You know, but I think restrictor plate racing at Daytona and Talladega is always going to be an element of its own that really is separate from what you see the rest of the season.
I think, too, what we saw at the test was that we'll have pack racing. I think the race is going to be a lot closer, but it won't be like the packs you have at Daytona or Talladega.
We'll stay in the middle and go back here to Nate Ryan, then we'll go far left to Steve.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. For Roger and Tony, you guys are somewhat biased because you guys both had wins last night, but what do you think so far about the overall quality of racing during speed weeks? And has NASCAR given you guys any indication they might make some changes for Sunday?
You want to go ahead? Go ahead. Well, NASCAR hadn't given us any indication they're going to change anything for sure, and I think we got to put it in context. You know, the 125s. Quite honestly, you know, you got your 500 car, you got less of a field, so there's less cars out there to maneuver with or either draft. So I think the racing, you know, will be certainly better on race day than maybe you saw last night. But you know, cars are trying to get up last night to the front and draft. From a show perspective, I think you're going to see you're going to have a blanket over the cars that can win. It's just a matter of staying out of trouble, you know, on race day and working with your you know, other Ford teammates here. But NASCAR's made no adjustments as far as maybe Tony's got one that he hasn't told me about yet, but I'm sure he has one.
I've been racing myself. I haven't even been here.
That's right.
No, it's the thing about the qualifying races. I mean, the majority of the field's locked in anyway. So the worst thing you want to do is put yourself in a bad position to have to bring a backup car. I think from 20 years ago when I started, the backup cars weren't near as good as the primary cars. Nowadays, the backup cars are almost identical to the primary cars that are coming out, but still, you don't want to do anything to jeopardize that car that you've qualified for the race. So guys are a lot more careful. You know, but we saw guys like Chase Elliott last night, Daniel Suarez, that were trying moves by themselves, and that's something that you typically don't see a lot of, where guys can move and pass by themselves. So I thought that was encouraging to see that you're not really having to rely necessarily on a whole pack of cars to help you move through the field. So watching that was, to me, it was a show. As a driver and as a car owner, I caught myself really paying attention to those two guys in their races and the effort that they were making to try to figure out how to get a run on somebody and you know, get back in a hole and get back in line. So from that standpoint, I was entertained from it. But the big thing is just like Roger said, the more cars you get out there, the more the pack racing gets a lot better and bigger. So you know, the qualifying races typically aren't as exciting from that standpoint, but it's because guys are really trying to take care of their equipment, because the goal at the end of the day is to win the Daytona 500. I don't think we put a lot of emphasis on winning the qualifying races, other than, you know, if you can win it, great, but that no way do you want to jeopardize your primary car to do so.
We'll go to the far left over here to Steve.
Steve Schweitzer of the Lasco Press. This question's for Mark. I heard a Ford driver say this week, if I can't win, I'm going to make sure a Ford wins. You look at the 5 personalities that you have up there and the egos that are setting in the cars. How have you been able to
That's it.
create that mind? How have you been able to create that mindset amongst all these guys?
One of the best things of working at Ford Motor Company is it's still a family company. And the fact that Edsel Ford is here this weekend and the presence that he has with us and support that he has is huge for our programs. And that's the way the company operates as one Ford. And that's the way that we started to approach our racing programs here. So obviously, like I said earlier, we can't go racing without our teams. So they're an extension of Ford Motor Company, an extension of our family. So we spend a lot of time talking about where are we going to work together and where are we going to race each other across the different teams. Because we know that in those areas where we are able to have the teams work together, it makes all of them stronger. And as several of these team owners have told you, that gives them the opportunity that they can work together, separate from the pack, and then race each other for that last lap. And that helps our company and our program in total. And the stronger our company is with our motorsports program, the stronger and the more support that we can give to each of the teams. So they're all racers, the owners and every one of the drivers. But I think they understand the concept and the benefit to them all in the long run.
We're going to go right here in the middle to Dustin, then over here, and then we'll finish up with Lewis.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. For Roger and Jack, as the sport looks to contain cost, are there certain things that shouldn't be contained for teams that you should still be able to have your ability to have your ingenuity as you look forward to the future? And could you survive on a budget of, say, 10 to 12 million per car, per team, if it came to something like that at some sort of cap?
I don't think that necessarily a cap is, you'll spend more time trying to manage it and regulate it than you will looking at other. I think there's common parts across the car which can be supplied by a manufacturer, multiple manufacturers, assuming they're the same, which can take some costs out. I think that's something that NASCAR is looking at today, and the OEMs are, because we don't need to escalate it. What we need to do is have it be reasonable. I'm not sure what that cost is, but there's a lot of things we can do if you want to, and to me, those are things that we need to look as an industry, and I'm meaning the OEMs, the teams, and the drivers have got to buy into this thing too from a safety perspective, but I don't think that I'm looking at, what's the cost going to be? And, there's always going to be costs associated. And with the technology that runs through the garage area, we can have a set of rules, and it won't take long. It'll be the next week that people have an idea how to make it better. And that's really all we want to be able to do. And what that is, I don't know today.
The fewer systems in the car that we compete on from an engineering and a development point of view, the lower the cost will be. We went through a bevy of changes in the front snout last year, and the relative stiffness and the relative weakness in the chassis became something that we had to do development on, and that required more engineers and more application of fabricator time and things to try to make sure you weren't missing something that Tony had found or that Roger had found or that the Chevrolet guys had found or that the Toyota guys had found. The fewer those things we have to be guarded engineering development with, the lower the cost will be. And I think with Gen 7, it's not clear. NASCAR is having discussions with the teams on how to address that. But if we're able to compete in the margins on and have fewer things that we do blank page engineering on, the lower our costs will be, and that's where we're all trying to get.
Yeah, I think we're really talking about Gen 7 for NASCAR. It's just not the car or the engine. I think it's the show, it's the length of the races, it's where we're going to run, how we're going to run at night, or we're going to run more short tracks. So let's just call it Gen 7 for NASCAR, not just the car. That's what I'd say.
We'll go right back here.
Steve Wilson, SpeedwayDigest.com. This one's for Lynn. You've been down here with the Wood Brothers ever since the beginning of the Daytona 500, winning with Pearson and Bain multiple times. Is the prestige of the Daytona 500 win as great today as it was years ago when, say, Pearson went to victory lane?
Yes. Our dad and uncles won the first race for Ford, first Daytona 500 race for Ford in '63. And they were over the moon, about winning that race. As it went on, we won with Pearson, we won with Cale, A.J. Foyt, and David Pearson. When we won with Trevor Bain, it was almost like it was more Eddie and myself. It was our team then versus Daddy and his brothers earlier on. But my dad, his last time in Victory Circle was here in 2011. He wasn't with us at Pocono with Blaney. But to see his smile and my mom's smile, it's pretty big.
We'll finish up here to the left with Lewis.
Yes, for Mark, Louis Franco Reuters. For Mark, the NASCAR's Hawkeye or OSS was operational last year. So how did that affect the development of the Mustang? And was it perhaps a perceptual advantage over General Motors, who had an existing car, and had to adapt to it?
Yeah, as the rules adjust, we have to adjust. So we have to optimize our cars and our teams and our execution to that. So as we were designing the new Mustang, it gave us the opportunity to try to optimize for that. But the rules also changed at the same time, right? Our car was approved in the July time frame, and we didn't know the 2019 rules until well after that. So there's always things changing in the sport, and that's good, right? It keeps it healthy and exciting, and all those changes made for the right thing. But that's part of what the teams do, and what we do as an OEM is we adjust to those changes and go race.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today, and good luck in the Daytona 500.
Thank you.
Thank you.